Going into my 8th season, coming off a Super Bowl win against the Broncos, we had our season opener in Levi Stadium against the Niners. And the Niners defense looks pretty good all around, looking at the linebackers and Rashad Farrell, the outstanding outside linebacker, and Sean Bell, just a generational free safety and 98 overall, still at 29 years old. The question this season would be whether we could repeat or if we'd be like most teams after a Super Bowl and have a Super Bowl hangover, either failing to make the playoffs or losing early. We used Amari creative in the slot to pick up a first down, but the Niners defensive line kept getting pressure, forcing me out of the pocket, and made some dumb mistakes trying to extend plays where I should have just thrown the ball away. At the beginning of the second quarter, I got caught doing the same thing again, and the Niners were on it, punching the ball out as I was about to pick up the first down, and they ended up recovering at our 35. It felt like nothing was working until 1 minute left in the first half when Joe Baldwin had a one-on-one and just destroyed his matchup on the outside for a big gain, getting us into scoring position finally. But I again was too loose with the football, trying to extend the play, and I took a hit and forced a bad pass that got intercepted in the middle of the field. It wasn't until the 3rd and goal in the third quarter that we regained some life when I hit Sean Beretta, our backup tight end, in the back of the end zone, and I have no idea how he stayed in bounds. In the third quarter, it looked like we had started to figure out this Niners defense a little bit. Starting off our next drive, I ran outside the pocket and tried to extend the play, eventually finding Joe Baldwin down the field and throwing a perfect pass just in time for the safety not to be able to make a play on the ball. Later on 4th and 2, we ran a read option, and I kept the ball, picking up the first down, using my blockers to get down to the 20-yard line into the red zone. And then on 1st and 10, down by 5 points, I again found Eric Love on a crossing route for the score to take the lead in this game, which I thought was not going to be happening the way this game was going earlier. And then on the 2-point conversion, running a bubble screen RPO, finding Eric Love wide open to take a 3-point lead, which the Niners eventually answered, but we had some significant injuries towards the end of this game with Joe Baldwin being out, Malik Dawson being out, and Trevor Knott having a torn labrum. We're not sure how long he was going to be out for, but we were down by 3 points with a minute remaining with an opportunity to win. And up to this point in the game, I had 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and then that 1 fumble loss. Eventually it became 4th and 7. We did not convert. We ended up losing the game 20-17. I did get an upgrade after the game, upgrading my strong arm and getting up to a 97 overall, getting +4 to play action at 29 years old. Still being a 97 overall is pretty good. And up to this point, midway through the season, I had 20 touchdowns to just 3 interceptions. Our running game was terrible. The Malik Dawson had regressed significantly this season. The passing game was pretty solid. Again, the touchdown to interception ratio was great. We had been dealing with a number of injuries going into week 12 against the Tennessee Titans. Jalen Hurts was leading the Tennessee Titans offense, eventually at some point coming over from the Philadelphia Eagles, and he was one of the few quarterbacks in the league still that had more accolades than me. So this would be a huge test for my legacy, even though we're playing a regular season game in Seattle. Looking at the roster for the Titans, they have a couple of young superstars like Devin McCoy at running back, at wide receiver having Jermichael Capers. They still have Treylon Burks on the team, and then Russell Petty at tight end was really good as well. It was no secret that up through this point in the season, our running game was really struggling. In the previous game, Malik Dawson had 19 carries for 52 yards. He did have 1 score, but the offense has completely revolved around my ability to pass the ball, which is usually not an issue, but when teams are keying in on the passing game and forcing us to run, that can become a problem. But the Tennessee Titans got an early sack in the end zone, forcing a safety, and our offense really struggled to get going in the first quarter. Things were only made worse when on 2nd and 6, towards the end of the first quarter, I forced a pass on a slant where I thought one of my receivers was going to get open, but it ended up getting intercepted. Later on, the Tennessee Titans did score a touchdown, and that left us trying to play catch up a little bit, down 9-0 at the beginning of the second. Eventually, I threw a deep ball down to Amari Huggins-Bruce, and he caught the ball getting into the red zone. Now, you'd think this would be a point where we could sort of rebound a little bit, and on 1st and goal, I almost got sacked trying to make a pass. Then later on 3rd and goal, I did end up getting sacked, forcing a 4th and goal, which we didn't go for. We went for a field goal, missed it, and then we somehow ended up getting a safety. Moving forward to 2 minutes left in the second quarter, making it 4th and 1, we decided to go for it, waiting for a receiver to get open, forcing a bad ball, not looking at the linebacker, just sitting in zone coverage, throwing in another interception, and we really just kept shooting ourselves in the foot. We could have had a lot more points in the first half if we hit our field goals, if we took our points, and we didn't force things. But for whatever reason, against this Titans team, we just could not get anything going. Part of it was the 2 interceptions I had thrown. Eventually, though, finding my receiver streaking down the field, field, and Eric Love took it in for the touchdown, beat his man one-on-one with no safety help over the top. This game had kind of been a microcosm of how the season had gone, and by microcosm, I just mean like the entire season had been a bunch of mistakes, and which was uncharacteristic for me and the offense, just getting a lot of turnovers, whether it was fumbles or interceptions, the running game not working, the passing game struggling with a lot of different injuries popping up, whether it's Trevor Knott or Joe Baldwin. And so we never were really at 100% strength, and we were never really all on the same page. But down 16-9 from our own 5-yard line, I hit one of my receivers who got outside on a corner route to get us onto the Titans side of the field. And eventually we actually did get into the red zone down at the 6-yard line, trying to escape outside. And I did find my way into the end zone, getting hit as I went in, but we tied the game, which we should have no business tying the game when we were struggling this much offensively throughout the course of this game. But our defense really stepped up. Now down by 1 because we missed the PAT, I found my receiver wide open on a crossing route down the field, but he didn't hold on to it. Later on 3rd and 10, I did scramble for the first down, so that left us with 20 seconds left and no timeouts. I hit my receiver again. He gets down to about the 20-yard line, but didn't step out of bounds, and we didn't have enough time to clock the ball and kick the game-winning field goal, which was just a huge bummer. I was really hoping our receiver would be able to make it to the sideline. It didn't seem like he prioritized that either, though. After the game, I did shake hands with Jalen Hurts and congratulate him on the win, although looking at the stats, really, we ultimately shot ourselves in the foot with 1 touchdown to 2 interceptions. Hurts only had 1 touchdown and 0 picks. Devin McCoy, a great running back for the Titans, did have a solid game, and our running game was basically non-existent. Receiving-wise, we don't really have the excuse that not everyone was available to play. Everyone did play, and we still lost. The following week, we played the Houston Texans, and we did rebound, winning the game 42-28 against Jonathan Stewart, one of the people that got drafted in the same class as me, and I had a fantastic performance. Malik Dawson had a great game on the ground. No one really stood out when it came to receiving in that game specifically, but looking at the season stats, our rushing attack was not great. I had a solid touchdown to interception ratio. Joe Baldwin led the team in receiving yards, and Ryan Alford, the Cowboys quarterback that replaced me, ended up winning MVP this season, and Bijan and CeeDee Lamb finished 1 and 2 for Offensive Player of the Year. So the Cowboys offense just had to be within the top 5 for top offenses for the year, just based off of their running back, wide receiver, and quarterback all being at the top for each award. And then we had our wild card game against the New Orleans Saints, and Joe Baldwin got injured on the first or second play of the game, and he threw his helmet off on the sidelines, which makes sense because he's consistently been injury prone in the playoffs for us. We did not know what the injury was though, so we could always hope that he could return within the game. But later on the same drive, we got to 4th and 2, and I found Tevin Warner, who got the first down pickup, and then on 1st and goal, I don't know how I didn't get caught here, running outside the pocket, and one of the defensive linemen for the Saints dove to the ground before I got into the end zone to take the lead. We were off to a great start in this game, up 7-3 at the beginning of the second quarter. I made a pinpoint pass, splitting double coverage to the corner, and then rolling out on my left weak side, making another great pass, getting it to 3rd and 5, rolling out again on play action, and I scrambled out to the side and tried to replicate what I had done previously, but at the 1-yard line, I'm getting pulled backwards, and I fumble with 5 Saints defenders around me, and this was the biggest 180 with a chance to take a 14-3 lead. I fumble at the 1-yard line, and the Saints recover. That was a huge loss. And then later, when we got the ball back again, luckily the Saints didn't score, but Malik Dawson had a good run, and then he got injured, and he had to go to the sideline, and he was likely going to miss the rest of the game. We'd already botched a couple of attempts to take a commanding 2-possession lead, but we had one more chance before the end of the first half. But in the drive, we had a perfect pass, splitting the linebackers from the safeties to Eric Love, but he could not hold on to the ball. And then later on 3rd and 10, I took a sack, taking us out of field goal range, and we ended up with only 7 to end the first half. But Trevor Knott was just playing out of his mind, happy that he was healthy for this wildcard game, and then that led us to a 3rd and 10, which we could not convert to get a first down or get into the end zone, leading us to take a field goal. We got another field goal to give us a 13-10 lead with 3 minutes left, and basically all we had to do was just run out the clock. First, we tried a jet sweep with Amari Huggins-Bruce. He got 5 yards, but later on 3rd and 5, I had to scramble outside the pocket, looking down the field, and ultimately my face just skidded across the turf as I got sacked. And we did not get any points out of it. The Saints scored a touchdown, and we were down 4, and we were forced into a 4th down. I had to make something happen, and I just threw an errant pass that the safety intercepted, and that would be our playoff exit. It was a really unceremonious finish to the season, coming off of a Super Bowl victory the previous year. Similar to the Titans game, I had a really bad stat line, 0 touchdowns and an interception. The running game was working decently well until Malik Dawson got injured, and we just had a lot of question marks going into the offseason that we had to figure out how to answer.